Hello, Penn Staters. As we begin the fall semester, I wanted to take some time with our whole community to provide a high level update on our ongoing work, the work we are doing to elevate Penn State from great to greater. I want to talk to you about what we've accomplished so far and where we are going next. There will be additional follow up opportunities on all of these topics this semester so that we can delve deeper into each of them. I want to begin by saying thank you, a most heartfelt thank you to each of you. Because while it's not been easy, we have made necessary, important, critical strides over the past 2 years. And this was as we focused on our people, building resources for the future, and achieving, sustaining, growing academic, research, and operational excellence. Through all of this, we've stayed true to our mission, we've strengthened our institution, and we've positioned ourselves to not just compete, but to thrive in our changing higher education landscape. Candidly, many of our peer institutions are not in as good a position as we are. Thanks to all of you, Penn State is poised for success. Penn State is uniquely strong. And I wanted to give you a few details of why I feel we are positioned so strongly. This semester, we expect our final numbers to show that more than 18,500 new undergraduate students have joined Penn State across all of our campuses, UP, Commonwealth campuses, and World Campus. We've also had extremely high applications and very, very healthy enrollment numbers, as I told you. All of these reflect on the quality of our education and the strength of the Penn State brand. And that's because of you. Let's talk a little bit about research. Penn State, in the 2025 QS World University Rankings, is rated 89 globally. But what that means is that it places us in the top 6% of research universities worldwide. I am so proud that our research enterprise continues to grow. Each year, we do better than the previous year. We are remaining focused on innovation. And as you'll hear more, we're intentionally becoming more ambitious in the grants we are pursuing and in the work we are tackling. We are able to do this because drawing upon all of our disciplinary excellence, we grow our impact, and that means we are able to achieve greater possibilities together. Of course, when you talk about a research enterprise, it's not possible without a strong and growing graduate student body. This year, our graduate student enrollment grew. We have 163 more graduate students this year, and that's a 1.3% increase. And that's great news for us. Penn State's finances and long term outlook remain strong. All the steps we've taken to ensure our future success are being lauded, such as the latest reports from Moody's Investors Service, S&P Global Ratings that we shared with you in August. And that's gratifying to see. Thank you to all of you. The work that our community has put in, I'm so pleased with the great strides we made over the last year to balance our budget so that we can have the resources to invest in ourselves for the future. While we're in a much, much better financial position, there's still a lot of work to do, and we will continue to maintain our focus. This focus is also being appreciated by our donors. I'm so honored and thrilled and gratified that this past year we've had more than 230,000 donors committing gifts during the quiet phase of our current campaign. And this has included major commitments, such as the university-wide Chaikin Success Centers, the newly named J. Jeffrey and Anne Marie Fox Graduate School, all of which are designed to help our students succeed and to have an impact on our community for decades to come. And I am very pleased to tell you that donations to ICA for the Beaver Stadium renovation thus far have exceeded $55 million. And that speaks to our community's recognition that the stadium is a strong driver of economic growth, not just for Penn State, but for our entire region. Our impact on the Commonwealth is unparalleled. We have commissioned a new economic impact study, 5 years later since the last one. And it shows that Penn State generates over $12 billion in economic impact for the state. We support over 81,000 jobs across Pennsylvania each year. And by the way, for every dollar we get in state funding, we pay $1.07 in taxes back to the state. We are also aligning the work of our clinical, academic, and research health enterprise. It is critical so that we can bring the next generation of medical leaders to Pennsylvania, and we can expand the reach of our rural health focus. Simply put, this is how I see it. No one does what Penn State does. No one does as much as we do, and no one does it better. But I want to acknowledge none of this work would happen without you, the Penn Staters on the ground doing the work. You're the ones living our mission every single day. So whether you're teaching in the classroom, working in the lab, engaging in creativity, scholarship, maybe you're preserving knowledge in our libraries. And I will never forget all the people who are maintaining and beautifying our campuses, keeping the lights on, the utilities working, those who are advising our students, coordinating our academic programs, or fulfilling any of the many, many, many vital and impactful roles that Penn Staters play every day. We couldn't achieve any of this without you. So let's take a moment now and talk about where are we going from here. I want to explore many of these topics with you in greater depth. I am delighted that I have three of my critical leadership team here with me, and I want you to hear directly from each of them. So let us begin with Tracy Lankilda, our interim provost. And Tracy, thank you so much for stepping up for this critical role. I thought it might be helpful if you could share with our audience today what some broad trends are in the higher education landscape.
Edison, can you share the first slide? So our shifting student demographics and market pressures are posing challenges across higher education. We can't do nothing given the pace of change. As you can see in the slide, the number of 18-year-olds that will be attending four-year college is projected to decline in our region. And the sentiment about the value of a degree is also falling among this demographic, from about 74% to 41% in just 10 years. How we think about curriculum and what we're doing for our students is changing rapidly. Madison, you can take the slide down. The good news is Penn State's at the forefront. We have people acting now to make sure that we don't fall behind in the things we really care about. Our campuses are all working together, and the newly named Fox Graduate School is a critical partner in this.
That's wonderful to hear. So tell me a little more. How are we evolving? You've talked about we're doing well, but with the changing landscape, staying where we are is not enough. So how are we evolving?
So the challenges that face us are really complex, and I truly believe that the keys to Penn State's success are a shared vision for the future, which you've provided us with your goals, a strategic plan that helps guide our future priorities and our daily work, and teamwork. Everyone out there on the ground is doing the work and seeing the impact, and we critically can't do it without them. So setting goals is one thing, but we all have to be swimming in the same direction if we're going to make those happen.
That's true. And you've said setting those goals together, we need to work as a team. Could you maybe give us some examples of those collaborations that are happening?
Sure. Yeah, we have so many Penn Staters already engaged in the efforts, including those that we saw in the video just before this presentation. They're giving their time and their talent and their expertise to make Penn State the best we can be. So currently we have faculty, staff and students part of our strategic planning committees, part of our APPR working teams, and involved in our Commonwealth Campus Future State initiatives. And all this work has just started, so we'll be sending out calls for feedback and engagement for all of these initiatives and others. So please get involved. We can't do it without everybody's help.
Thanks, Tracy. I know when we do all of this work, it really comes back to student success. That's our priority number one. So I'm just curious to see if you can talk a little bit about the efforts that are underway to help our students succeed.
Of course. Yeah, work continues to provide our students the resources and the information that they need to truly thrive, regardless of their background. So we have faculty and staff across our campuses researching and implementing both new and innovative, as well as established best practices to support all of our students in succeeding. From considering the communities that students live and learn in, to implementing peer advising or peer learning assistance to help students learn, trainings on equity-minded pedagogy, and specifications grading that will help our students master math skills at their own pace. And we're going to need to continue to expand these initiatives and support those that are doing this incredibly important work on our campuses.
And I know you talked about a lot of work that's happening, and not everybody might be familiar with that. So would you mind talking a little bit more about some of the initiatives that we have underway across the university?
Yeah, of course. So my resource is a partnership with IBM that aims to help connect our students with the myriad of resources and information that is out there to support them. There is so much at Penn State that it can be really difficult to find. I think we have all had that experience before. So we're currently beta testing an AI-powered virtual assistant that will learn and tailor information and direct it to the students based on their specific context. Flourish Penn State and the Graduate Empowerment Equity Series provide students with resources and support for their personal and professional and mental well-being. This is currently based at University Park, and I would love to see this expand across some of our other campuses. And with the expansion of the Student Disability Resources Testing Center at University Park and some upcoming changes for how we provide support across our campuses, we're going to be able to provide better support for our students than ever.
I think that's so critical, as every student deserves the support that they need to reach their potential. So far, we've talked about what we are doing for the students. One of the things you always talk about is how students are contributing in meaningful ways to Penn State. So I've heard you talk about this so many times. Is there an example that you might want to share?
Yes, so many examples. I'm going to pick one. So our student government, UPUA, as well as other students, faculty and staff have really challenged us to reduce our carbon emissions. And I am pleased to announce that we have cut our carbon emissions in half since 2005. And 28% of this has occurred in the last 5 years. Now, usually the biggest impact, the lowest hanging fruit, happens early on. And so the fact that we're still making major headway is truly cause for celebration. And our students have been really essential to this. So recently they led recycling efforts at our stadium, and they helped address nighttime lighting at our athletics facilities outdoors. So they're driving and making an important contribution.
Wonderful. Obviously, really appreciate all the work being done to help our students. And as you know, a key priority for me from day one has been our research enterprise. That's our second goal. So Andrew, so thrilled to have our Senior VP for Research, Andrew Reed, here with me. But Andrew, I'm going to share a couple of examples of what we've done so far and then turn it over to you. Overall, our research enterprise is strong and thriving. FY23 was a record-breaking year for us in research expenditures and grants. And I know that FY24, we continue to look for great growth. In the past year, we've had 7 new inductees into various national academies. This is very, very critical. These academies, as you know, the membership is considered to be one of the highest professional honors that an engineer, a scientist, a medical professional could achieve. So that speaks very well for Penn State. I'm also very proud that we are one of the top producer nationally of doctoral level Fulbright scholars. Again, that would not happen without the mentorship of our faculty. Undergraduate and graduate students are involved in research at every step of the way. I'm really pleased that since I've been here, at every board meeting, we try to showcase a faculty member working with a graduate or undergraduate student in expanding the bounds of our knowledge through their research and scholarship and creative activity. We are elevating and investing our support for commercialization. And that's very critical because our researchers want to have an impact. Many of you may have heard me talk about this, but if not, I truly encourage you. John Morrow, I'm embarrassing you once again, but please, everybody, look up Lion Glass. That's a great example of how the work we are doing in our research enterprise can have an impact worldwide. And I'm I'm very cognizant that research takes many forms, and we don't always appreciate and uphold the work that's done in community engaged public impact scholarship. So, solving a local problem, addressing policy. So, those efforts also we're trying to shine a light on and be at the forefront of acknowledging those efforts. With that, Andrew, once again, as we did with Tracy, could you maybe start by giving us an overview of the national research landscape?
Sure, Neely. As you know, it's getting increasingly tough to get research dollars, and as our researchers know that as well. Funding from the major federal science agencies is down, 25-year low in real terms. So things are getting more competitive. But we are well positioned to make the most of those parts of the federal pie that seem likely to grow in the next few years. Technologies around national security, that includes food and cybersecurity, semiconductors, energy, batteries, grid, nuclear, and so forth. To do that, though, we really need to be very strategic. It's not always possible to know which areas are going to be the ones that bear the most fruit. At the same time, so that means we need to continue a broad portfolio, so that we can make the most of opportunities that we can't yet foresee. But at the same time, we also need to respond to the national and to the international priorities, so we can get some of the funding that is available in these areas. And as you and I have discussed so many times, we need to do that in a way that maximizes student education, the life opportunities to the students. That's graduate research students, of course, who are the engine of our research. But it's a very special educational experience for the undergraduates to be part of a major research university that's creating the 21st century.
From our first conversation, I've told you we need to aim big. We need to compete. We are Penn State. We can do the very best, right? So tell me a little bit about what strategies are you employing to support our faculty and our staff in the efforts to stay at the forefront of research excellence.
Madison, could we have the slide up? Thanks. So over a roughly 25-year period, beginning in the late 1980s, Penn State ranked in the top 15 for research expenditures in the nation. Sometimes we're even in the top 10. The last time, though, that we were in the top 15 was 2011, and last year we came in at 28th. Now, 28th is still really good. It's in the top 3% of higher education institutions in the US, but still not back in the top 15. And we would like to get ourselves back there. Why do we want to get into the top 15? Well, we want to have impact. We want to have impact on our students. We want to have impact on the world. And there's a very real sense in which the bigger you are, the more impact you have. Top 15 is absolutely not going to be easy, but we do have exceptional folk, exceptional students, exceptional researchers, exceptional staff. And as I just said, we're very well positioned to capture the significant funds that are related to today's national priorities and that are going to be important in the near future. And those priorities we do want to address as a university. They are around the really important national and global problems. So how are we going to do this? Okay, well, we're going to double down on our interdisciplinarity. But of course, that means we need to make sure we got very strong disciplinary foundations. We're aggressively investing internally to support teams of researchers who are targeting those higher value and higher visibility opportunities across the breadth of our offerings. These multi-PI grants, these can be very large and they generate more impact than the sum of the parts. In the past year, I'm pleased to say we've submitted some of the largest grants in Penn State's history, including one just this week, which went in well north of $1 billion. That's in the semiconductor digital twin space, and we're well positioned to receive other funding available through Chips for America Act.
Thank you, Andrew. We've done it before. We can do it again. There's no reason we won't. And I'm really thrilled with this leadership. Any other examples you want to share?
Well, let me share a couple of examples of these big proposals that are already in place. About a month or so ago, we had an NSF site visit for Joan Redwing's two-dimension crystal consortium, and NSF told me, they lectured me about what a national treasure it was, that there are universities and companies across America interacting with that facility, gaining from that facility. So in addition to all of our students, we've created a national asset. This year, we got a $25 million grant from the US Department of Agriculture to support climate-smart agricultural practices, $20 million from NSF to support a national synthesis center to understand how life emerges from chemistry, $8 million from the semiconductor components industries to develop a silicon carbide crystal center. Now, we are putting in concrete dollars to position us for these things. We put in $3 million for the Silicon Carbide Center. We're finalizing plans for a $17 million semiconductor packaging facility refurbishment. And the START Lab, which is a lab, as you know, Neeli, because you visited it, turbines for jet engines. We are co-investing with industry and government there to the tune of in excess of $20 million.
I love this because, again, you and I have been hard at work on making sure that we invest for the future to keep us strong. Tell me a little more about internal funding programs. This has been a priority for you.
Well, you mentioned before research commercialization, and we are putting money into the pipeline to make it possible for our researchers to take their inventions to the market, which, as you know, is an incredibly impactful force for a route to impact. We launched 2 funding opportunities now supporting the first cohorts of researchers at the Commonwealth campuses. These are conducting work that improves the well-being of local residents and communities. Among the funded projects are ones related to reducing opioid harm in communities that don't have easy access to healthcare, and of course workforce development in local communities. And I want to say thanks to you, Neeli, too, because you have become the president of the new President and Chancellor's Council on Public Impact Research, a new national organization with international interest from funders across the globe. It's a tremendous position for us to be taking the leadership in, but also it's going to open up some very interesting funding opportunities in the space for more public impact research. So thank you very much for that.
This would be such a wonderful way to showcase our campuses and how important they are, the Commonwealth campuses, in the communities that they serve.
I completely
I'm
agree.
looking forward to that. One other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, early on when I came here, I would hear repeatedly all of the burdens that our researchers had to bear, the bureaucracy that would sometimes hamper them. And I know that you've been working on this behind the scenes research transformation efforts because of course, there's more regulations coming at us every day, and certainly we need to fix our own systems. So I would love to hear a little more because these may not be so visible to everybody, right? Not everyone might see it, but it will have a huge impact on the life of our researchers and their productivity, faculty, staff, and students. So we'd love to have you talk about that.
Yeah, well, as you know, one of the reasons I took this position was because all the things that have annoyed me as a researcher for the last 17 or so years, now I'm in a position to do something about them. There's so much to share. I'm just going to mention a couple of highlights. Hopefully all the faculty have explored the My Funds portal that allows them to see in real time their research financials down to the individual transaction. It's actually incredibly important to be able to see your budgets in order to manage a research program. And incredibly, it has not been possible to do that for the last 4 years. But now I think it's actually better than it's ever been in my time at Penn State. So I hope the faculty are taking a good look at that. We're looking at a host of other things to provide meaningful support for our staff and our researchers. For example, we've been investigating how many staff are needed in the college research offices to support the faculty members when they put the grants in and then to manage those grants when they get them. On the basis of that analysis, we are right now putting $2.5 million new dollars into those offices, and the hiring of new staff has begun. I'm very proud of that. But Neeli, the weird thing about it is that $2.5 million is a reaction to a problem that, in a sense, we created. We had incredible growth over the last 5 years, 30% increase in research expenditures, so a lot more work. And all that work fell on far too few staff, and we can't let that happen again for so many reasons. We've begun modeling how many staff we're going to need as we climb back into that top 15 so that we can hire and train ahead of time. We've got to move from being reactive to being proactive on those support systems. Last fall, we established the Research Support Transformation Program to figure out how we can lower the administrative burdens of which we've spoken. Those are the burdens on both staff and faculty. And there are lots of reasons for doing that as well. But of course, if we are planning to accelerate our research, we've got to accelerate our ability to support that research. The core team is going to be reporting recommendations to me at the end of this month, and then we're going to get straight into implementation. Looking at where we're at the moment, I think a major focus is going to be on dashboards, key performance indicators, so that we can see where the problems are and target resources and training in a much better way. But as you mentioned, it's really important to understand that it's not just our business processes that are responsible for these burdens. Madison, can you put up the next slide, please? So in the main plot here is the number of new regulations affecting research through time, starting in 1991. That's the cumulative number through time. And then the small panel is the number of new regulations per year. So if you look at that, you can see that the number of new regulations have doubled over the last 5 years. Incredibly, we have dozens of staff monitoring those changes and figuring out how to implement them, and literally hundreds of staff and dozens of faculty involved in making sure we don't fall foul of them. And I'd like to thank the entire community for the work they do on that incredibly fast-moving environment. But if you think about it, over the last 5 years, when the staff numbers in research administration, if anything, reduced, our staff got hit by 30% more grants and 100% more new regulations. And I'm very proud of what they achieved, but we can't let that happen again. We need to invest smart to get ahead of that.
I definitely appreciate that. And across the enterprise, I hope everybody's seeing we're using a data-informed approach to everything we do to say, let's research the problem and come up with solutions. So Andrew, I told everybody this is an update and we have a follow-up in more depth on each topic. So can you tell me when we'll have that update on research, the more in-depth conversation with faculty and staff?
Yeah, so we're going to do a town hall on October the 14th in conversation with faculty members and research staff. I'll share some of the recommendations from the RSTP and the plans for implementation, and we'll take questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Andrew. Again, today, in the spirit of giving everybody an update on where we are, I'd love to turn to Margot Delicarpini, Vice President for all of our Commonwealth campuses. And again, consistent with what we've done, Margot, could you speak to the national landscape? I know Tracy covered the overall higher education, but curious about regional campuses and what we're seeing there.
Sure. Thank you, Neeli. And as Tracy shared, higher education is a rapidly shifting landscape. We see continued challenges with enrollment of traditional freshmen across the country. We know there is a predicted enrollment cliff nationally for traditional age students, but there's also been a trend away from regional comprehensive campuses towards flagship and land-grant institutions. And in Pennsylvania, we see continued decreases to kindergarten enrollments, which again predict that cliff that we're all heading towards. So this is a very challenging enrollment landscape for the campuses. Pennsylvania is also an incredibly crowded landscape for higher education. There's more competition for fewer students. Pennsylvania is home to 4 public multi-campus institutions, the PASHE system, and a large network of decentralized community colleges. And that doesn't even start to address the almost 130 private universities. So there's a great deal of competition. We know that students' expectations are changing. We know that we continue to have conversations about the value of a 4-year degree, and we know that cost is a huge factor. So as we look at this landscape, we see that these internal challenges and these internal and external challenges really are situated right around the space that the campuses reside in. And we know, we've talked about this, that we've seen aggregate losses to our enrollment at the campuses over a 10-year period of about 24% in aggregate, with some of our campuses experiencing declines of almost 50%.
Thank you, Margot. Recently, the board at their retreat had a higher education expert come and speak, and he spoke particularly to what you're just talking about for our campuses. And that means we have to work hard to make sure that we keep all of these sustainable, thriving for the future. So can you tell us a little bit about the work? I know people have heard about all of the work we've done to free up resources so that we can invest where we need to. So can you help us connect the dots? VISA, Regional Leadership Model, OSTs, how all of these are an effort to free up resources for the future.
Yes, and so we rolled out the Voluntary Separation Incentive Program at the end of the spring semester. This was an employee-centered way to help us begin to address the budget challenges and aligning our budgets at the campuses. We had a total of 381 employees, which represented about 21% of our overall workforce who were eligible and 10% of the Commonwealth campus staff. And about 77% of those were staff who elected to participate in that. Our backfill decisions are underway, and we are using data and opportunity as a way to inform that process. We're uncovering opportunities to think regionally in terms of key support and services, and we're thinking about how we can leverage the expertise that we have existing across the campuses as well as the regional model. We're creating opportunities to regionalize and to create shared services. This new business model is going to enable us to offer consistent services across our locations and avoid what I call the single point of failure. So for example, if a staff member is on vacation or if we have a vacancy, there are many campuses that we're just going without those services that were performed by that one staff member. So with a regional approach, we can address that. And this has been informed by past successes. In 2022, the OVPCC stood up a regional enrollment management team that was serving several of our campuses in the western part of the state. And the result here has been a more efficient and collaborative admissions approach. And we're looking at replicating the service model in other regions. Once this work is accomplished, we know that we'll be able to provide more consistent services that better meet the needs of our existing students and our prospective students. And regionalizing these services helps us build teams of cross-trained professionals with specific areas of expertise and helps us incorporate more remote work where that makes sense and we provide more access and more capacity to students. We also know that we can create synergies so that no campus operates in isolation, but instead collaborates to address the regional needs and functions in a very interconnected way. And we know also this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We have some services that can be provided regionally, some that can be provided from the university itself more centrally, but then things that really do have to take place locally at our individual campuses. And phase one is well underway. We've been looking at continuing education, enrollment management, and registrar services. Phase two is just starting. We're inviting staff teams and faculty consultants to work on regional structures around professional advising, instructional design, and career services. And finally, phase three will commence later in this fall semester and focus on student affairs and strategic communications. Both of those are a little bit more complicated in terms of a business model. The chancellors and I meet regularly throughout this process. We're sharing information with them so that they're able to take that back to their campuses, and they're sharing information from the campuses to us.
Margot, I'm going to jump in for a minute because I want to commend you. We have all seen reports from 25 years ago, 10 years ago, well analyzed reports saying we need to look at this to keep the campuses thriving, and you've done that. So I want to thank you for that and for laying out the phase one, phase two, phase three. Can you tell me a little more about the regional model, the collaboration? And one other thing I want to add is you are sharing information with the chancellors. They are telling you what's happening on the campuses. And for every leader, I hope you are taking the message back to your particular campus. That's going to be very critical both ways for us. So talk about the regional model and maybe OSDs a little bit.
So in addition to our own regionalization efforts with many of our services, our administrative and support services at the campus, the university also is rolling out an optimized service team model. This has started at the campuses. This is another regionalization effort around development and alumni relations, facilities, finance, information technology, and safety. And like our other regionalization efforts, the OST process is still developing, but we're seeing early, really great results. And
tell me about that. I would love some specific examples.
Two amazing examples. So our regional leadership, one of our regional chancellors reported that they had one of their main classroom buildings that was in dire need of IT infrastructure support. Prior to the OST process, they had gotten a bid. It was going to cost $500,000 to address what was identified in that building as problematic around IT. After the OST was put into existence, was stood up, staff members, IT staff from two adjacent campuses or two nearby campuses came. They were able to fix the whole building for $5,000. So if we just look at that, I look at that as a win for the year in the OST space. That was amazing. And we're also seeing another example is in the West. One of our chancellors said that there was an IT staff member who was out for personal time in one of our campuses, and IT staff from Brandywine, Beaver, and New Kensington were present on that campus to ensure a smooth opening for the start of the semester so that services were provided. And it's just the examples like this, and I have a ton of them, but we don't have that much time. But these examples underscore the benefits of a regional and shared approach to the services and how they benefit the campuses.
Yeah, I love that because we're backstopping each other so that the students, faculty, and staff are not impacted negatively. That's great. So I understand the phases 1, 2,
Mhm.
3. Talk a little bit about why we are doing all of this. I think the vision is something that, as we hopefully talk about more, people understand why this is so critical.
So as Neely mentioned, we've been, looking for many years at how to create a sustainable future for the campuses. Our campuses have evolved to be very working in isolation from each other, although we're part of an amazing interconnected network of Penn State University. And so regardless of budget challenges, we really need to look at how we modernize our business model to be responsive, to be proactive, and to weather ourselves against the storms that we know continue to arise in higher education. We want to provide consistent services across locations for students, faculty, and staff. We want to amplify the impact that we have in our communities, and we want to do so by really leveraging expertise and thinking about what a modern land grant institution means to the communities that it serves.
So true. Um, I'm very excited to see that, and I'm also thinking about when we free up these resources, where we can invest in them and what we can do. Can you give a couple of examples?
Sure. So, while we're addressing budget realities and while we're undergoing great, amazing transformation in our business models and the way that we think about our role in communities and how we amplify that, we also know that we have to invest. And that's been an area that I've been very focused on. So two areas that we know, our investments have to be aligned with our mission. And for us, we are here for our students. And so two areas that we're investing. One, Penn State Schuylkill under former Chancellor Patrick Jones has a very successful co-op program. It connects students with employers from the minute that they walk onto our campuses, carries them through their whole academic career on the campus, and connects them with their futures that they're coming to be connected with in really meaningful ways. We also know that as a result of that co-op, students have better outcomes overall in terms of graduation rates, time to degree, progression, and success after they leave us. And so we're investing to stand this model up across at each of our campuses so that students, regardless of their location at a Commonwealth campus, have access to a really innovative co-op model. We're also looking at a pilot program in the Du Bois-Altoona region around workforce development and career development. And we are identifying strategic funding to support a career development pilot, which will really become a demonstration site that will look at career services as a more holistic career development ecosystem, including workforce development and research hub models, an expansion of continuing education, and again, including the very successful Penn State Schuylkill program, the co-op program in that region. So we're looking at employer engagement, we're looking at aligning programming to provide students with opportunities in the region. And so these are investments that are exciting and that are really going to have an impact on the outcomes for our students.
I love that, because we all know that increasingly the value of the degree is being questioned. What am I doing? The level of competition. Thank you for taking the best practice from one region and taking it everywhere.
It's
That's
exciting.
the strength of the collaboration.
Exactly.
But obviously, work like this cannot be done by any one individual or any one unit. So can you tell me who is involved in this? Who are the teams that are working on it?
Yeah, so we have many initiatives. One of them is the Future State Design Project, and we have campus teams. There's a team for every one of our 20 Commonwealth campuses who are really looking at the unique identity, the unique strengths, the unique features of our campuses, how they interact with their communities, and how we very intentionally leverage synergies, partnerships, and think about what a sustainable future looks like. So this is a truly collaborative effort that has a lot of engagement. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, we have working groups around these business models that include staff and faculty consultation, and so including as many people from the Commonwealth, both internal and external to our campuses, as well as our partners across the university. So it is truly a team effort.
Glad to hear that. What's the timeline for this future state work? Because you've talked about what's going to be happening. I'm sure people would like to know.
Sure. So we can put the slide up. Right now, we are in kind of the phase one, which is our information gathering phase. This started in the spring semester, and we've been having restart meetings this week. We have a tri-chair model at each of our campuses that are leading these efforts, and that it consists of the chancellor, a leader from faculty, and a leader from staff, and includes students, advisory board members, and community members. But that work has restarted. And again, there's information gathering mentoring, there's looking at strengths, looking at unique opportunities. And then sometime in October, phase 2 will start. And this is the really exciting phase. Our campus teams are really excited about getting started with this. And this is the design phase. And this is where we reshuffle those original groups, and they look at the data that was gathered, the information that was gathered, and they create conceptual models of what the future could look like, what a sustainable model could be for their campus, and what opportunities there are. Once that work is completed, we'll be sharing those models and those designs broadly with the entire university community for comment, for feedback. It's exciting to honor the work that our campus teams are doing and to see what innovative ideas come from that. And then we go through the vetting process with OVPCC leadership, with our university leadership, and we decide on what a future will look like. And this is aligned with many of the other initiatives. We've got other processes that this initiative will inform, and also be informed by university, larger university initiatives.
So maybe you could speak a little more. When this is all done, where do we anticipate ending up when the work is done?
So what I'm hoping is when the work is done, that we've gotten some really innovative ideas that we hadn't thought about before, ways to leverage a future that is sustainable. By the end of the fall semester, we'll have most of our data and most of our design models have been gathered, have been looked at, have been vetted. And then we start with implementation. After we've made decisions about what is feasible, what's sustainable, what really is promising, we start the work of implementation. And that's ongoing. That's going to take us time. But we have the luxury of time to do that. And Neeli, I want to thank you because you dedicated an additional up to $20 million to the campuses to really help us be thoughtful, to think through this process, and to take time to be able to stand up innovative programs and think about how we're creating that sustainable and responsive future for our campuses.
Thank you, Margot. I think that's very critical. I love the tri-chair model, the fact that there are faculty, staff engaged on each of these. But we promised everybody these updates. This is high-level update. We'll dive into details. So can you tell me when the follow-up would be?
So we have a campus conversation coming up in October 24th. So stay tuned for more information about that. And we look forward to having a deeper conversation around these topics with our campus community.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Tracy, back to you. Again, not a dull moment, lots going on. So I wanted to talk about, as we continue to execute on some of the opportunities we've created, want to talk about how we've already continued to invest in our academic mission, whether it's our facilities and infrastructure. For example, the state-of-the-art facilities in College of Engineering, the new dorm renovations, the enhancements that we've made that you've referred to for many student support and community-centered, community-focused centers. That's all to give the highest quality experience to our students. I'm also very pleased with the work we've done in modernizing our enrollment practices. I don't know if everybody knows this, but we realized when we came here that a prospective undergraduate student had to go to as many as 10 websites to try to pull together the information to decide if Penn State is right for them. So really proud of the work that enrollment management and StratCom did together. So now they can have a seamless experience from one website. Because, we can't expect the prospective students to do all this extra work when our competitors make it a seamless experience. We are also, I'm very proud that we are focusing on holistic student success, the partnership with our faculty, equipping our students with the tools, the skills, the supports they need to be successful. That's going to be critical. And I think we've got to do this. We've got to do this because that's the way the world is moving and we don't want to be left behind. So something that's a very critical aspect of making sure we're always relevant, always evolving is the academic portfolio and program review, APPR. I'm sure people want to know more about that. So could you speak to that?
Yeah. The APPR is a proactive response to the changing landscape of higher education. It will ensure that our academic offerings across all of our campuses align with student demand, societal and workforce needs, and Penn State's research strengths and priorities. And if you want to learn more, please go to provost.psu.edu/APPR. So this looks at the scope of our offerings, not the academic quality of the programs, and it is separate and distinct from our budget efforts. It's a standard process at many institutions and a really healthy recurring exercise. So we're looking at building on Penn State's reputation for excellence and incredible student success. We need to know the right mix of programs at a given location, considering the resources and the expertise and the community needs. So some examples, we have fabulous allied health building at Penn State Mont Alto, excellence in the powdered metal field at Penn State Du Bois, and really great plastics expertise at Penn State Erie. We need to know if we're leveraging these opportunities appropriately. And in other parts of the state, we have similar degree portfolios offered at multiple adjacent campuses. We're competing against ourselves, and APPR will help us determine and highlight our exciting differentiators to help guide our student decisions. We won't be holding off on decisions while these data come in, but APPR will help make sure that there is data available to inform these decisions on a recurring basis. We'll also be working with the grad school. They have a fabulous program review that's already established that we'll learn from, and communicating often with the Commonwealth campus to make sure that we align with the future visioning that Margot was talking about.
I could not agree more. In many states, it's mandated that we do this review. And even if it were not, regularly looking at what we do and not cannibalizing ourselves, that's going to be a critical piece. You've talked a lot, Tracy, about how this needs to be a collaborative effort. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, there are already so many Penn Staters involved and engaged with the APPR, but a really strong, very recent example is the process to select an external partner for this effort. The identification of Hanover, who has recently been signed as our external partner, was led by one of our work teams through a really robust and inclusive process. So Faculty Senate and Grad Council and USAC were deeply engaged in developing a request for proposals or an RFP, reviewing these and interviewing finalists. And this team developed a recommendation which Margot and I happily accepted. We intentionally brought different viewpoints, were respectfully shared around the table, and this led us to an outcome that was truly focused on Penn State's best interests. Now, Hanover is going to be assisting with the data collection and recommendations, but we will then need to put this through the Penn State lens. They will likely come up with some recommendations that don't align with Penn State's priorities and is not something that is in our best interest, so we won't be implementing those. And we will likely identify others that Hanover misses. And finally, in recognition of the critical role that faculty play in this process, I will be appointing a Faculty Senate co-chair of APPR to work alongside Liz Wright and Renata Engel. I have recommendations from Faculty Senate leadership, and while I hope to be able to announce this today, this is an important process. I didn't want to rush it. I will do so soon. Please stay tuned.
I thank you so much. I know that our faculty always, they're so deeply committed. I hear every day. They want to make sure that they're providing the cutting edge knowledge, skills, creativity, and pedagogy. So this is great. It has to be driven by faculty, and I'm glad that they're working side by side with you. One other aspect that's been in the news and it's on people's minds is our commitment, my personal passion, commitment, longstanding, to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Because as you said, we will only be a thriving ecosystem, if everyone feels empowered to bring their full selves to work and we have respectful dialogue and we move forward together. So I know we've recently announced our plans to hire a new leadership role as the vice president at the vice president level. So can you talk a little bit? I know the intention is to break down the silos and have everybody working to create a welcoming space, every faculty member, staff member, and student member in our Penn State family. But curious to see if you could share a little more.
Yeah, so this is part of Penn State's and your continued efforts in investment in fostering DEIB. So we will be creating a new leadership role at the vice president level to support students, faculty, and staff across Penn State's 24 campuses. Update, we're forming a search committee now. We'll be naming a search firm within the next month, and we'll be beginning a national search.
I'm so grateful to our board for supporting our efforts in this as well. So I'm curious, I'm sure people will say, why are we hiring? Why are we doing this now? What would you say?
So this is not the time to back down on DEIB efforts, and Neeli, I so appreciate your continued very visible support for this. This position will unify the university's DEIB community and partner with professionals in academic units to meet your goals around DEIB. Now, I want to be clear that we will not be moving academic positions out of academic units. This position will support and synergize with the existing efforts.
That's great to hear. But while we wait on the hire, and you've announced the process, we're already investing in our employees. So can you speak a little bit to what we are doing around faculty and staff?
Sure. So this past year, academic units implemented faculty hiring recruitment plans to engage in best practices for equitable hiring of really exceptional candidates. And we have provided financial incentives to support hiring of faculty from diverse backgrounds. We're reviewing the outcomes and we'll continue to make adjustments as needed. We're learning from each other. We're learning what worked really well and areas that we still need to tweak. That's one thing to recruit, but we need to make sure that we retain and support our employees. So there are efforts underway to better understand why our employees leave or stay, and how we can make this a place where people leave only because they're pursuing really exciting opportunities and not because they feel like they're being pushed out. Applications opened just this week for Opportunity Grant Professional Development Funding to support our really talented non-tenure line faculty to continue to learn and grow and try new things. So that's really exciting. And we will be announcing a Center for Faculty Development and Advancement to support all faculty across Penn State in thriving.
I love that. It's the universal design principles. If we do right for a group, then we are reducing burdens for everybody and making ourselves better. Would love to hear some student examples.
Yeah, great. So as I mentioned, closing the demographic gap in student success remains a focus. So in addition to our fabulous faculty and staff champions, the Office for Planning, Assessment and Institutional Research, or OPAIR, are working to provide data so that we can all understand how we can better address graduation gaps in students based on race, ethnicity and socioeconomic background. October 8th is National First Gen Day, so we'll be recognising and celebrating our first gen undergraduate students and our first in family graduate students. And we're collecting examples of where we do things really well for our students. So Margot mentioned Schuylkill has an incredible co-op program that would be really great if we could expand across more campuses.
Yes, including University Park, absolutely. I always come back to staff. I want to talk about that, the connective tissue across our entire enterprise. None of this would be possible, our academics, our research, anything without all of our staff. So what are some examples of working to create a strong sense of belonging for our staff?
So this initiative is open to all of our employees, but staff are really the backbone. So there are several employee resource groups, or ERGs, because we love acronyms here, that have been established in the past year. And they really help support the recruitment and engagement and retention of our employees by really connecting them based on common identities and backgrounds and interests. They're also really critical in helping inform us, shaping organizational structure and culture and contributing to a better Penn State. So right now, in this last year, we've had LGBTQ+, veterans, carers, and sustainability employee resource groups stood up and have heard of the need for disability, identity, and women's resource groups. So if you are interested in creating an ERG, please email ergs@psu.edu.
So critical because, like you said, if it's a caregiver, if it's a veteran, these are created by employees for employees. So that creates, and their allies, that's important to say, so that we can create that sense of belonging. All these efforts are to help us be competitive. The classroom of the future and the workforce of the future. That's why we are doing what we are doing in all of these. So thank you to all three of you for providing these updates on very critical aspects of our campus. Every one of these, I hope you see, are clearly aligned to the goals that we've laid out that have been approved by our Board of Trustees. And we'll soon be sharing a draft of the high-level goals within the strategic plan. And you, as the Penn State community, we desperately need your input, your feedback, your thoughts on the draft plan so that we can all create something together. It's easier to be an editor than an author, so there may be some ideas in there for you to react to, but it really needs to be a community shared vision of where we are going. So Margot, Tracy, Andrew, we mentioned already the specific follow-ups that'll be coming, but Andrew, one more time, when will we be doing the research update?
So we'll be doing the town hall on October the 14th, but everybody can get involved right now by going to the Research Support Transformation Project portal. Just have to Google that with Penn State, put any input ideas in. There's a lot of information there already.
That's great. And we are following up on anything that
We are.
people provide. So that's been wonderful. Margot?
So again, campus conversation on October 24th and more information to come. And we look forward to having people out and having a robust conversation at that time.
And Tracy, I know you've said you need input on so many projects. Do you want to say anything else about that?
Yeah, so we will be putting out a call for broad impact into strategic plans. Help us figure out how we best meet your goals, how we measure our progress, and what we do to get there. Writing the goals is great, but it is all of you that needs to help us figure out and do the work to make it happen. So please get involved and stay tuned for the Faculty Senate co-chair. We'll be announcing that really soon. And we currently have work teams on the ground, the people who are closer to the work, figuring out how we're going to be collecting and sharing the data, and communications and engagement plans. So please get involved.
Well, I guess I will close us out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Whether you're faculty members, staff members, student that's watching it, alumna, we're grateful for your time. I am excited because, as we said, this is a journey from great to greater. We are already a strong, unique university, but we can never rest on our laurels. We have to continue to be competitive. And I'm looking forward to that. I'll close by talking about the 3 watchwords: purpose. We're not straying from our core purpose of what we have to do, but we're building in some agility because we do need to do that. Strong roots and some agility. And with those two, we're putting ourselves in a position by investing in our people and operational excellence, by making sure that we're creating resources for the future to invest, freeing up resources. And finally, academic and research excellence, clinical healthcare excellence. All of these will mean that we are able to create opportunities and seize opportunities, going for the bigger grants, making sure that we have larger impact. All of these are examples of elevating Penn State. And I'm very grateful to you. And if you have feedback even on this at any time, please go, let me get this right, roadmap.psu.edu. And when you do, you will see that there's an opportunity for you to provide feedback, and you'll also see pertinent links to all of the follow-ups that are to come. Very, very grateful to you for your time. And I have to do this. We are
Penn
Penn
State.
State.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.